All right, let's get right into it. In the business world, you hear about legendary rivalries all the time. But right now, a brand new corporate war is brewing in one of the world's fastest growing economies.
And this isn't your typical battle for, say, tech or land. Nope, it's for something you literally see every single day. The prize here? It's dominance over the very color of India itself.
And believe me, the stakes are massive. Look at this number, 20,000 crore rupees. That's about 2.4 billion US dollars. And get this, that's the revenue target for just one company, Berger Paints. That's a stunning figure, right? It just goes to show you the incredible scale of this market.
Okay, so to really get what's going on here, you need to meet the players on the battlefield. Let's break down the kings and the challengers, all vying for the throne.
First up, we have the undisputed king of the castle, Asian Paints. I mean, these guys have over half the market. They defend their kingdom with this legendary supply chain. It's like a fortress mode. They've built this direct-to-dealer network that's so vast, they can get a can of paint to a tiny shop in a remote village just as easily as they can to a megastore in Mumbai. When you combine that with a brand that everyone in India knows, well, you can see why they're so tough to beat.
All right, then you've got the number 2, the ambitious general, Berger Paints. They're the second biggest player, but they are not happy just sitting in second place. Oh no. They're actively expanding their forces, building new factories, and trying to recruit more and more dealers into their army.
And here, this is where things get really interesting. The plot thickens, because a brand new, super well-funded disruptor has just stormed onto the scene, Birla Opus. They're backed by the massive Aditya Birla Group, and they're launching an all-out invasion with a 10,000 crore rupee war chest. Their plan? Conquer territory with seriously aggressive pricing.
And finally, you've got the guerrilla fighters, the nimble players like Indigo Paints. These guys are smart. They avoid a head-on fight with the big armies. Instead, they use innovative products, think metallic paints, floor paints, and clever tactics to outmaneuver the giants in places they might overlook. Smaller towns and Tier 2 cities.
So how is this war actually being fought? It's not just about flashy TV ads, It comes down to the specific weapons of competition that each company has in its arsenal. Look, victory here really depends on mastering 4 key things. First, you've got to control the supply lines through a massive distribution network. Second, you wage a bit of psychological warfare with your pricing strategy. Third, you have to develop cool new products that actually get people excited. And finally, you have to win over hearts and minds with some serious brand power. But out of all of those, the most critical weapon, bar none, is distribution. In the paint business, it's simple. Whoever controls the dealer network is like the general who controls all the roads and supply routes in a war. Think about it. If your paint isn't on the shelf, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't even exist. And this quote right here just perfectly illustrates the land grab that's happening. Berger wants to double its network to 100,000 distributors. That just shows you how dramatically the battle for shelf space is heating up. It's a direct shot, a direct challenge to everyone else. Okay, let's zoom in and actually map out the battlefields. Let's see exactly where these armies are clashing on the front lines. Because this isn't one big fight. It's fractured across a bunch of different territories. So this chart really lays out the different fronts for us. First, in the big Tier 1 cities, you've got Asian Paints basically defending its turf on the premium shelves. But then, you go into the smaller towns and markets, and that's where Berger and Indigo are really making some smart, strategic gains. Meanwhile, Birla Opus is just lighting a fire everywhere with a brutal price war, trying to grab volume and make the big guys hurt. And on top of all that, a whole new battleground is opening up in high-margin areas like waterproofing. But every war has its costs, right? And this one is already taking a real toll on the financial health of these companies. They're being forced to make some really tough choices between grabbing more market share and actually protecting their profits. And that brings us to a really crucial idea here, margin pressure. The best way to think about it is like a financial wound that gets inflicted during these battles. So when a company like Birla storms in with lower prices, everyone feels that squeeze on how much money they can actually make.
And you can see that pressure in action right here on this chart. Birla's whole price-led invasion strategy, it means their own margins are taking a hit right from the get-go. But in contrast, look at the established king, Asian Paints. They're remarkably stable, protected by just how huge they are. And then you've got industrial players like Kansai Nerolac, who are kind of in a different part of the market, and their margins are actually improving. Wild, huh?
For Burla, this whole strategy is a massive, high-stakes gamble. Yeah, they're capturing territory, but it comes at a really steep price. All that investment and those low prices, it means their profitability is going to be hurting. We're talking about a metric called return on capital employed, which is basically how much money you make back on the money you put in. For Burla, that number is expected to be really, really low for years to come.
So, after all this fighting, all the money spent, all the strategic moves, what does the new landscape of the Indian paint industry actually look like?
Well, the biggest takeaway is this. There's no single winner here. The war is being won in specific zones. So, Asian Paints, still the king of the dealer networks in the premium market. But the challengers, Indigo and Berger, they're the ones you've got to watch in those fast-growing smaller markets. That price war is definitely helping Burla grab volume. But what's the long-term cost? We don't know yet. And it looks like the next big fight is already shifting to new battlegrounds, like waterproofing.
And all of this leaves us with one final massive question. The disruptors have completely redrawn the map of this industry. And yeah, the King's Fortress is still standing strong, for now. But the siege, it has only just begun. This great paint war is far, far from over.